American foreign policy today faces, in a way, an unprecedented challenges. United States has declared its support for Ukraine in the war in Ukraine that we face, and also support for Israel in the conflict that we have in Gaza going on right now. The problem, however, is that both of those conflicts, as they take longer, suffer from two big challenges. The first is the declining support, particularly in the case of the Middle East, for Israelis' operation, and the need for the United States to commit and support the State of Israel as its closest ally. And in the war in Ukraine, similarly, the United States foreign policy is facing declining support within American society, declining support in Europe, and most importantly, as the conflict drags on, declining support for funding that American foreign policy has provided to the Ukrainian side, the Ukrainian party, and funding for Israel. In particular, right now, the biggest challenge is funding for Ukraine. And the reason for that is that the United States has a serious problem of a looming deficit. And the House is controlled by Republicans, and many of them pose fiscal conservatism as one of the major issues, and that's why they see the aid for Ukraine as one of the issues on the chopping block. So what we're seeing up to date is a serious challenge for U.S. to justify its financial support for Ukraine, unfortunately. So Ukraine has a just cause. Majority of American society supports that just cause, but becomes more skeptical about the financial aspect of this support. So right now, the way that U.S. foreign policy is conducted, U.S. position has been consistent that negotiations can only start when both parties, that includes Russia but also Ukraine, are willing to sit down and negotiate. As long as the Ukrainian party is not willing to sit down and negotiate, then U.S. government is not going to impose the Ukrainian party to sit and negotiate. Instead, what it will do is it will provide support as needed. That includes military and financial aid. Of course, securing that aid has become problematic in the legislature because Republicans control it. The problem is that this issue has become much more salient. The unsustainability of both supporting the Ukraine politically but also financially and militarily. We've heard that particularly right now. We have a presidential campaign preparing for next year. We have candidates on the Republican side, and many of them have expressed concerns. That includes not just President Trump, who is also trying to get the nomination and is so far the front runner for the Republican Party, but also folks like other candidates on the Republican side that have raised the issue that Ukraine has to start negotiating, and that it makes sense to make a deal and end the war. So this has created bifurcation, but also uncertainty in American foreign policy, because if U.S. foreign policy has been fairly consistent during the Cold War and even in the first decades following the end of the Cold War with regard to issues like the right of countries to choose their foreign policy, etc., this issue is not that clear anymore. So there are serious divisions in political elites, and there's a serious debate going on within the two major parties, particularly among Republicans.